Hi everyone, thanks for joining Collision Repair's webinar on 3M'S pandemic plan. I'm here right now with Craig Jalbert. He's the business manager of 3M'S Automotive Aftermarket division. Thanks, Craig, for joining me.
I appreciate it, Maddy, and thank you for having me. We have a long history in media matters, so I really appreciate the time today to share this with the audience.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So just to give everyone a little overview, today we're going to discuss how 3M has supported the automotive aftermarket through the pandemic, the company's global collaboration efforts, Craig's predictions for the future, and much, much more. So after that, after we go through all the questions, we're going to do a quick Q&A period. So feel free to ask your questions throughout. Just put them in the chat box below. I'm really excited to talk to you today, Craig.
I think this is a very unique platform, so it's great to have the wider audience involved, and I think timing of it is perfect.
Yeah, I totally agree. So Craig, just to start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll talk about my background a bit with 3M. Been with 3M for 16 years, going into my 17th, all a part of the aftermarket division and the aftermarket industry. So unique in 3M because of all the divisions we do have. But I started in sales, started in the GTA East, that's around Toronto, and also had the fun part of Northern Ontario. Did that for 3.5, 4 years, moved into a business development manager role, where I was in charge of some networks, some key channel partners, did that, got to spread my wings and introduce myself to new customers across Ontario. That was a great part of my career. Moved in after that to sales management. So now people responsibility for 5 to 6 years, has just an incredible team in Ontario. Got to see the country a little bit more, see the different parts of the industry across the country. Then I got a unique opportunity to move into marketing and actually learn different things in the marketing role of collaborating across teams with the US, bringing in portfolios and products, and understanding that. Then I did a marketing operations role in the aftermarket, and now just the past year I've been business manager, or now we're calling it division leader for Canada.
Wow, so you have a very long history with 3M.
I do, and the aftermarket. You know, looking back, my family's got some history with being car enthusiasts. My dad's got a classic car. He was always building that. Didn't know all about it until I got in the industry, and I can see the passion in this industry, and it's just a fun part to be a part of.
Yeah, I totally agree. So for those of you who don't know, can you tell me a little bit about 3M and its connection to the automotive industry, or the aftermarket too?
Yeah, I'll start with 3M as a whole. I think a lot of people don't know how broad, how wide the company is. They see the extensive history we have in the aftermarket, but 3M started in 1902. Originated as a small-scale mining venture, and you can just see the growth of the company. Now we have 93,000 employees across, and our operations exist in 87 countries, and we sell into over 200. So you can see our employees are responsible for 60,000 products that are used in homes, schools, businesses, and hospitals, just to name a few industries. And we've kind of changed our brand. You know, in the past, we talked about innovation. We're still innovation at our core, but now we're science applied to life. You know, and we look at how we can advance homes, enhance businesses, and improve lives everywhere. You know, and we bring that to the aftermarket. So looking at the alignment now that we realigned our businesses to focus more on our customers. So we went from 5 business groups to 4. And you'll find the aftermarket division is within the safety and industrial business. And that business right there focuses on global industrial, electrical, and safety markets. You look at our second business that we transformed as well, it's our transportation and electrical business, electronics. So they serve the OEM customers for transportation and electronics. The third one's pretty straightforward, that's our healthcare industry. So they focus in their platforms around the healthcare industry globally. So they focus on medical, dental, and our skin and wound divisions. And then lastly is our consumer and office business. And that's just called our consumer business, and they focus on global consumers. So you'll see brands in there with our Command, our Post-it notes that everybody knows, and Scotch tape that they sell in the retail space. If I look back in the second part of your question, how is 3M relevant to the aftermarket? You know, we've invested in the aftermarket from the early stages of 1900s, so at the grassroots of this. So when we look at the innovation, it started early. With the industry struggling at the time with not having the proper sanding products, we invested in innovation to bring Wet or Dry, or the first waterproof paper to the industry. So this produced less friction, produced less dust in a shop in the early 1900s. And then the second milestone, which is kind of unique, and I think people in the aftermarket should be proud of that, because in 1925, we brought in masking tape. So we pivoted as a company to folk that was an abrasive company to start bringing in masking tapes. And this was the first Scotch platform that you see Scotch tapes, and that was invented in the aftermarket division for the two-tone paints that they're seeing. So you can look at the springboard of innovations that we brought in after that, panel bonding adhesives, Cubitron abrasives, Trizac, which is our brand as well, and they're all platforms for this industry. And then most recently, our paint preparation system. It was invented in the early 2000s just for the aftermarket division. So we have a long marriage together. It's been fantastic. I think it's just been wonderful. And we have a team all across the country that are focusing on customers.
Yeah. What was it that you said earlier to me? You're never 6 feet away from a 3M product. I thought that was so interesting.
Yeah, I think our company and our marketing team looks at that as you're never 6 feet away, and the average person uses 8 3M products a day. So wow. It's kind of unique, with different products they're using, from cell phones today to driving on the roads with traffic signs. They're always touching. We're trying to bring innovative solutions to every industry.
Yeah. So my next question is big, but what has 3M been up to throughout the pandemic? Like, what are some of the most notable initiatives they've launched? What would you say is the most notable?
I'll do that in two parts, and I'll look at 3M as a core, because obviously being a global company with all sorts of divisions, I think the number one priority, and I commend our leadership globally and locally, the number one priority that we brought in and the proactive approach is the health and safety of our employees, our families, our customers, and our communities. We wanted to make sure everybody was safe during this. We took an early stance to make sure our employees were safe. And that was the number one priority that we had as a company. And then we transitioned, and this started actually pre-COVID, is understanding the demand of our PPE. And I just want to highlight that because it's been in the media. It is near and dear to our hearts, obviously, in the aftermarket division for people wearing PPE. But we had to bring all hands on deck, make sure we're increasing capacity and production of our PPE locally and on a global basis. And again, where that kind of stemmed from too is just not doing it internally, what collaboration we can also bring into that. So if you look at early January, we were producing around 50 million masks on a monthly basis. We've doubled that output to help the frontline workers and healthcare providers. So that's with the help of all 3Mers across globally, all hands on deck to bring that into play.
Yeah.
On the second part, I look at the aftermarket team. We, during this time, early stages, it was difficult on certain times to understand what we were going through, but we kept every one of our employees employed. We wanted to make sure we were servicing our customers. We created and developed internal projects and surveys so we could understand as our team, and I commend our team across the country, coast to coast, they were reaching out to customers. They were saying, okay, what are you experiencing? What is the anticipated volume that you're seeing? So we're touching base to understand it. It wasn't just about bringing a product solution. It was understanding what they need. What can we bring to the industry during these times? So I look at the internal project that we brought in with Project Shield that we called, understanding the disinfecting, sanitizing, and isolation, not only for technicians in the shop, but also the waiting rooms, the offices, the new normal that we were seeing. I'm going to call it new normal because I feel it's going to be the new normal going forward. Looking at what we did in our division of bringing in third-party companies. So with the uncertainty, we brought in this company to understand the market insights. What are we seeing for traffic volumes, traffic flow, people buying vehicles? So how is this industry going to ramp up, and what are the trends that we are experiencing during this? That really helped us out to understand our demand plan. So when we go through this, we wanted to make sure we had the right product mix and the right products in Canada for our customers. And I think we're talking about it again, is the global collaboration.
Yeah.
I really we look at our AED division, there was different parts of the world that are at different phases of this pandemic. We wanted to see where they were going, what solutions they provided, how we can bring these into our country and North America to help out our customers and our channel.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about your Ford partnership throughout the pandemic?
Yeah, that was a unique one, and that was early stages of this. So I commend Ford and 3M for collaborating on this, understanding the need for healthcare providers, frontline workers. So when you look at the stance that Ford did, they had transition at manufacturing where they shut down production, obviously with the vehicles that were happening. So they wanted to go, how can we help? So 3M and Ford collaborated on this for our powered air purifying respirators for hospitals. And they actually, if you look at it, what's so impressive is they turned that around in 4 weeks. Wow. So they produced 10,000 units with 3M in the collaboration for frontline workers. And it just wasn't the Ford one. I know that's near and dear to our hearts in the automotive aftermarket, knowing Ford, but also Cummins. You look at the transition of them bringing in and producing filters for this. You look at what's happening with MIT, the collaboration we're doing with MIT to produce and develop a rapid test for COVID. So this can be done in 10 minutes, you know, and I also commend the company globally. We've invested $10 million in cash and products to humanitarian needs and aids across the country, across the globe.
Yeah, it's so amazing how fast you guys were able to respond to the pandemic and get things out. Like, that was what I was so impressed by, is just so many companies did that as well, just responding so quick and getting what needed to be done.
Yes.
So how has 3M been supporting the auto industry specifically during these unprecedented times?
I'd say the Automotive Aftermarket division and the industry, I'd say we've been a proud supporter of this industry, as everybody knows, for many years. I highlighted that earlier. So our goal during this was, and I think it's very important internally and externally, is communication. You know, making sure everybody understands what we're doing internally and also communicating externally to our channel partners, and also our customers what they're experiencing. There was a lot of question marks during the challenges of PPE, what's happening to Canada. We wanted to make sure we communicated to our channel partners, to our networks, and our customers how we're pivoting, what we're trying to do and accomplish, because it was highlighted earlier, I think in a slide, that 90% of pre-COVID, 90% of our PPE were sold into industrial. Yeah. When COVID came into play, we actually flipped that. So now 90% of what we sold in PPE was actually in healthcare. So you look at the gap there that we had to kind of experience and the challenges we had to experience from a communication standpoint. So we wanted to make sure, and again, it's still our goal to make sure we educate and train everybody what a mask is used for, what industries they're used for. So the public awareness in this, they're not bringing in N95 masks for walking around, because we need them in our industry. We need reusable respirators. We need all these different things for our industry, so the public aren't just taking these from our technicians and our employees. And look at some of the things we did. I talked about reaching out to customers, you know, making sure we understand how we can pivot, how we can bring new solutions to them, new product solutions, new value add solutions during this time, working on projects internally. I think the community support, I look at the team that we had across the country. They did a great job internally of pivoting, going, okay, where can we bring in fit testing, both internally and externally, so people are safe when they're out there, so they're wearing the proper mask as well.
So there's been talks of enhanced communication and inter-industry relations, just with Zoom and everything like that. And since the auto industry is such a tightly knit community who's very known for their face-to-face interactions, do you think that all corners of the industry will be enhanced post-pandemic after this?
So sorry, just understand the question, you cut out there.
Just since the auto industry is usually so face-to-face, do you think that after post-pandemic that our inter-industry relations, especially with insurers, will be enhanced post-pandemic?
I think there's a lot of learnings for that. I think understanding the conferences, as we witnessed from SEMA's latest communication of face-to-face events. You know, this industry was very conference heavy. I think 3M, we all love being a part of those conferences, interacting with people face-to-face. I think in the short term, we got to understand how we can pivot virtually, how the insurance companies are relating with their new integrated programs for the shops. I make sure shops are reaching out to the networks and different things to understand how they can kind of navigate through the new normal of social distancing.
Yeah.
But I'd say there will be some changes that I think in the short term and probably the long term in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. So as a global supplier, has it been difficult to support so many markets and so many different places around the world? Like, what has that been like for you? Or for 3M?
Yeah, I think it's been probably been a challenge for every company, I think, that's global. I think as different countries went through this in different phases, it was making sure we prioritize the countries that were faced this early. So it has been, but I do commend all 3Mers across the globe and this team here in Canada for coming together, you know, making sure we're doing the right thing, prioritizing our events internally here. So was it a challenge globally? I would say it's also been a benefit, you know, having an understanding of where people are at, what proactive approaches they took early phases of this, so they can communicate to us as well. I think the one biggest shift that we had too is the shift of having that face-to-face that you talked earlier with customers, and now trying to reach out and service them at a distance and virtually. You know, so understanding what we can bring in. We've done a great job of pivoting, looking at virtual training options, virtual programs with channel and customers, so we can bring that at a distance. So I think as a global supplier, was it difficult? I think it was a challenge, but I think our company really came together so we could understand what's happening in different parts of the country and we could localize that.
Yeah, it's definitely the silver lining of it all, is a huge learning experience. Since 3M has locations in Asia and bunch of places all over the world, and given that Asia is at a much later stage of the pandemic than we are here in, say, Canada, would you say that 3M's picked up any like trends, tips, products, or anything like that, like learned anything?
Yeah, I think early stages of this, Maddy, we really focused on global collaboration. And I think when just look at Asia, look at other parts of the country and other countries around the globe. So we actually created a weekly meeting for our leadership team in the aftermarket division here in 3M. So we wanted to understand, and we did presentations going, okay, what are we doing in each country? How we can collaborate with product solutions, process solutions. That's how this Project Shield came about, is not just looking at divisional products that we bring to aftermarket. What can we utilize from our divisional partners?
Yeah.
What are they using in medical? What are they using in consumer solutions division that we have here? And that's the food and safety division as well. So how can we utilize products and bring to our industry that can be utilized in the short term and long term? So I wouldn't just look at the 87 countries we have. It's just not one specific country. I think they were in the early phases of this, but India brought some great ideas.
Yeah.
They brought some solutions of sanitizing that we're bringing into play. The one hard part for I guess customers and for our employees to understand is that we deal with regulatory at a country level. So we always are working with Health Canada, regulatory, to make sure we're protecting the public, make sure we're protecting the technicians out there. We're just not bringing in a product that's not going to be utilized properly, and it's going to have long-term impact on them. So we're doing our due diligence right now with some products that we're going to bring to the industry as well.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into my next question. So we've noticed, like, throughout the pandemic, a lot of auto companies have transitioned into producing PPE. But with this transition, as you know, there's a lot of new risks, insurance-wise, liability. So does 3M have any advice on companies who are just entering this transition into producing PPE?
Yeah, I again, going back to it, I look at Ford, I look at the companies that came into this that really assisted in their collaboration. I think as we go through this, they understand the sophistication and the complexity of manufacturing masks. You know, they understood at the start. You can't just pivot, even for a company the size of 3M, to just pivot and start manufacturing more masks was very challenging. You know, there's standards we have. We have NIOSH approval in Canada. That's the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health. We have to make sure for the industries out there that they're using the right masks, and there's a lot of science to go into manufacturing masks. You know, so there's also the CSA. You have to be CSA approved when you're wearing a mask. So, and the fit testing. So I think if you look at early stages, the collaboration efforts are there. But I think the long-term manufacturing, they understand that 3M does it really well. We've spent years of science and research to make sure we bring the right mask to the right industry. So I believe if you look at it, it's about education, you know, making sure everybody's wearing the right mask for the right industry. And that's the biggest part that we are training people on, is education out there.
Can you talk a little bit more about fit testing? Because I'm not sure everyone will know what that is, but it was pretty interesting when you were describing it earlier.
Yeah, that's something that our team does in the aftermarket, kind of unique to the aftermarket. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, that's kind of a service that we provide to the industry. I think it's great. Every technician needs to be fit tested for the industry. And it's the industry that they're in, to make sure they're using the proper masks for painting, for sanding, for dust extraction, making sure that we're using the right cartridge if it is a reusable respirator. And that's so important for the health and safety of the technician in the shop. You know, we all want long-term employees, you know, so we know the challenges in our industry with skilled labor shortage. We want to make sure we're protecting the employees that we have currently. So our team does that. They go out and fit test a shop, make sure the technicians are wearing them properly. And it is actually, for our industry, it's mandatory. So a technician has to be clean shaven. As much as we like to grow in the trend right now of having these unique beards, we got to make sure that we're clean shaven for fit testing and we're wearing the mask properly.
So you can't have any facial hair with the mask if you want to wear it completely properly?
The team out there, the 3M team, will actually, they'll educate the people on there is certain facial hair you can have, but if there is any restriction from the mask touching the face with hair, that's where you run into trouble. So we do have options out there where people can use different reusable respirators if they do have a beard.
Yeah, awesome. So we saw that 3M, they haven't increased the price of their N95 mask once throughout the pandemic. Can you just kind of elaborate on why the company decided to do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'd say during this time, 3M is not one company to take advantage of crises. You know, that's not in the cards of 3M. We want to make sure we're an ethical company globally and in Canada. You know, we held ourselves to a high standard on that to make sure all of our employees are doing the right things. We're servicing customers in the right way. And that was true during this. It wasn't a time to increase prices. But what I actually commend the company on is flipping the script on that. It is now going on the offense. What companies are out there that are fraudulent, counterfeiting, and price gouging? You know, it was highlighted early on. So we created a webpage and a hotline to make sure people are communicating this to our company. We're out there. There's a lot of fraudulent 3M products out there that were coming in during this time. So we wanted to make sure that people are using the right masks for the industries. They weren't bringing in masks that weren't going to work, and PPE that weren't going to work, and also price gouging. You know, we saw it in stages. So we created this hotline. We had reports to date. We had 5,500 plus reports. So our teams, we have 18 pending lawsuits filed. So we are taking down, actually 180 plus websites we're taking down that were fraudulent. So we're doing our due diligence. It's just not about manufacturing the product. It's about making sure we service the industries and our customers out there as well.
Yeah, because it'd be so easy to see something online, like on eBay, that a 3M approved mask or a 3M manufactured mask, but it's not actually real. So it's about protecting those people who might fall victim to that.
Yeah, and I'd say during these times, that was actually amplified, you know, so people bringing them in with the shortage early on, and I'd say we've got our way through it. I just, again, commend the leadership here in Canada. Our team's done an incredible job of pivoting, making sure we deal with all those. But again, we don't want people price gouging. It's not a reflection upon 3M. We want to make sure we're doing our part to make sure people are getting the masks out there and people aren't taking advantage of that. And again, fraudulent masks are everywhere. You know, there's masks where we see across the globe that may have a 3M logo that's not 3M product.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you guys are really proactive on that, making sure that people aren't going to get away with that. So how can other companies follow in 3M's footsteps to support their communities as well as the automotive industry throughout the pandemic? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I think you highlighted earlier, this is a very tight-knit industry, and I think that's why I just love the industry, and that's why I've been in it for 16 years. I haven't had the interest to leave the industry because of the close-knit, family-oriented industry that it is. I'd say we all learn from each other, and that's what makes this so special. Can we learn from 3M? I think we learned from all the other companies in this. Some of the channel partners that were doing things, I thank them. They've done a great job of communicating to us what we could do, how we could help the customers. So collaboration in the industry is so important. I'd say the one thing, if I had to highlight the important, is make sure we focus on the number one asset, and that's our people. We've always highlighted that our company doesn't exist without the people that survive in it and work for us. So that's the number one thing. We made sure we keep them health and safety, our technicians. I think the other part, communication. I highlighted that earlier. It's so important that people are comfortable. We're communicating internally, what they're experiencing, what they're seeing with their families, and also externally. That's why we wanted to get into this webinar, to make sure people see that we're visible. We're out there helping the communities and helping the industry as well. I think that's important. This industry's gone through a lot of change.
Yeah.
The change is going to continue and the trends are going to continue. This might have delayed some of that, but I still think the industry is seeing change. We have to make sure we're collaborating together, understanding it together, and as the consolidation happens throughout this, make sure we understand and educate everybody through it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what is 3M's current goal in the automotive aftermarket? Has it changed at all throughout the pandemic?
I'd say you pivot during this. I think there's a company highlight that. You pivot, you might kind of delay a couple priorities that you were working on pre-COVID, but we have the mentality across all our divisions. You have one eye in the microscope and one eye in the telescope. And I think this industry has seen that. How do we do look at the short term? What are the trends that are occurring on this? And I see the trends, and they're still going to be there. Are the shortage of skilled labor. Understanding how we can train as a company, both virtually and as we go through this, where do we go to the grassroots with skilled technicians and get to these the younger generation early? And I think that's so important to our team. Let's make sure people understand this is a healthy industry. Somebody, the young generation can have a great career in this industry as being a painter, a technician, a manager, an estimator, or even a channel, or working in the channel and sales. So I think our job as a company is make sure we train, we educate, I think bring in new product solutions, but also value add solutions. Yeah. It's more than just a product. It's about making sure we're a true business partner to our customers out there. So bringing in the financials, I think the big push now is where we're seeing in digital, how we can bring in digital and virtual training. And that's going to be so important as we go through this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of all just about adapting to the situation, and it's sort of hard to have a specific goal, but being able to have those in the horizon and work towards it regardless and make new ones along the way. So I think that's
we've done a great job over the last few years of making sure it's more than just a product that we bring. Our products, we do have the innovative products, but how do we assist as we see the transition in the industry where we're seeing more people in the front office, where they're doing different things? How do we assist with integrating programs? We've launched a CRIM program, which is a collision repair materials planner. How do we bring in these solutions to help out the industry so people know and get paid for what they do? And that's so important to this industry.
Yeah. So why is continuous support of the automotive aftermarket so important to 3M? Like, is there a deep root, some sort of reason for that?
Well, I kind of highlighted that in I think my second slide there about the grassroots, the investment from 3M, and just basically, I say it, the marriage that we've had with this industry for many years. It's over 100 years. Mm-hmm. You look at that. So it's near and dear to our hearts. We have a sales team and a team across the country from coast to coast. We make sure it's a family knit industry, so it's very important to us. We love the closeness of it. So, but I do, again, looking at the market insights, I think there's a lot of nervousness pre-COVID, and I guess during this, with this industry, there's a lot of great signs of rebound in this industry. And I want to make sure I highlight that to everybody, because of the market insights we're seeing, there's a lot more public awareness, and I'd say they're not as comfortable as they were pre-COVID with ride sharing, mass transit. We're seeing a huge uptick in even the younger generation getting their license. They might have had no intention of getting a license. Now they're buying vehicles, or their intention is to buy vehicles. So the traffic volumes are actually increasing. When we looked at early stages, we thought we'd be through this longer. We're seeing more of a V curve, and that's very healthy for everybody out there in this industry. We will, and again, investing in this industry in the short term and long term is very important to 3M.
Yeah. So obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but what are your predictions for the future of the aftermarket? You kind of touched a bit there, but do you have anything else you want to add?
I'd say consolidation is going to happen. I think, we got to understand what that's going to look like in the short term. I think we got to understand how we can provide virtual training to customers and our channel partners. I'd still say, what does the new normal look like? I think we're still trying to understand that as we go through this. I think I applaud our governments, companies, and the industry here, because you see we're actually in a pretty good position with the pandemic. And that's just a proactive approach by our leaders in Canada. So we've done a great job, but who knows what the short-term and long-term future holds. So I think making sure we're communicating, I'd say we need to, in the future plans of our company, is make sure we're training technicians, educating them, and bringing value add and product solutions to them on a regular basis. The one thing I probably applaud the company, and I guess this is for aftermarket, is if you look at our sales, a third of our sales are actually innovative products that's happened in the last 5 to 8 years. That means we're in this industry, so we're still bringing innovative products to this industry, and we're continuing to do that. So it's very healthy, and we're looking forward to bringing more innovative solutions, not just around products, but also value-add solutions as well.
That's awesome. So what about the future of technology? We've seen a rise in the use of photo estimation and whatnot. What do you think we'll be seeing more? Like, what more technology do you think we'll be seeing more of?
So I'd say, I think you brought up the insurance side. I'll leave that with the people that are more closer knit to the insurance side. We're working on some integrated programs as well as a company, but I'll leave that with them. I'd say, what do I see as a digital movement? I see a lot more probably for our team and reaching out and touching base with customers, how we do that virtually, as I highlighted earlier, how we bring in different digital capacities with that, how do we utilize social media as we are today. I think that's important, because if we don't have the face-to-face conferences, how do we get out there and educate our customers and our channel partners? I think that's where we can use these platforms, understanding that better. And I look at our team, actually, they've started different projects internally. How are they going to use social media? How can they bring different things into play for our customers and reaching out to them? So they're working on projects themselves as they navigate through this. So I think that's going to be important for us.
So this is just kind of a bonus question, but as you know, SEMA was canceled. What do you think is going to happen with that? Do you think there'll be a virtual option? 3M's obviously a pretty big player there. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the old hot seat question. I'd say I hope so. I think SEMA has got a long history with this industry. They've seen things change. I absolutely love going down to that show, seeing customers. It's an opportunity to meet and see new things. It's a great platform for 3M to showcase the innovative products at our booth. I still think there's going to be a component of that. So I think SEMA made the right choice. In the short term, it was going to be very difficult to have people attend and feel comfortable with that. But I still think there is an important piece to this industry that we do have a face-to-face component. And I do see us conferences happening, and I hope they do happen in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I hope so too. So all right, we can get right into our question and answer period. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to type them now. We'll start answering some of the ones put in the chat.
I have to say, I was joking around earlier. I'd like to thank everybody here for having this because I was able to wear a suit jacket today for the first time in 3 months, so 3 to 4 months.
Okay, so we have a question right here. Can you address the shortages in products, body filters, PAPR replacement cartridges, pre-filters for respirators, basic desk masks, paint respirators?
I kind of highlighted that earlier. It's a great question, and I want to make sure we're communicating that to everybody too. So as the company early on stages of this, we had to pivot. So again, we had 90% pre-COVID of all of our respirators. It didn't matter if it's disposable respirators or reusable that were utilized in the industrial space. So as we went through this, we had to actually pivot that 90% was now going to healthcare. So pre-COVID only 10%, now 90%. So we also had to change some manufacturing lines to produce more N95 masks for the frontline workers and the healthcare providers. So we're trying to keep up the demand. It did put us back a bit. Unfortunately, our industry and all industrial industries kind of saw that. We are communicating that we're getting better handle on stock of those reusable cartridges and masks. I'd probably say for anybody out there in the industry in the short term, if you are using a disposable respirator, transition to a reusable respirator. That's probably the best case, and our team will reach out. And I say reach out to your 3M sales rep as well. They can help you out.
So the next question we have is, when will 3M Canada be allowed their sales teams to get back out in the field and start making distributor and body shop calls?
That's a great question. I'd say, you know what, it's been challenging. I'd say all of our team out there probably have their cars revving in the driveway. You know, they're eager to get out there, see customers. I think it's important for us to make sure as a company across Canada, 3M Canada, that everybody is in the right space. I think as we go through this, we are approving certain visits to customers, making sure it's there. We want to make sure our team's comfortable, their families are comfortable. I would say I don't know what the new normal looks like, that our team's going to go out there and make 7 to 8 calls a day. But I'd say for anybody that asks that question, if you need something out there, reach out to your sales rep, and we will kind of review the case and make sure that we are servicing in the right way.
This one, not a question, but Craig, looking good. Keep up the great work. Does 3M have any new products in the pipeline for the automotive aftermarket?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, we continue to invest in this industry, always looking at product and value add solutions. So yes, we do. We have some great new products and investments that are coming down the pipeline. I'll keep that near and dear to my heart. We'll put it out to the industry like a Christmas present, but we do have some ones in the short term and long term for the industry.
What has 3M learned? What learnings has 3M realized from the pandemic in terms of material handling, getting stock into facilities, coaching distributors, effective inventory maintenance? So I think this is just asking, like, what have they learned in turn?
Yeah, I think what we learned early stages of this, we have a lot of analytics that we utilize, but a lot of them are lagging. And what I mean by that we get them after the fact and they're not a proactive approach. So we wanted to make sure, my learning was, how do we be proactive in our demand planning? You know, to make sure we have the right stock in Canada for our channel, for our customers. So my learning early on was to have our team reach out to our customers to provide anticipated volumes. Very challenging. I fully understand that for the team and for customers, but that really helps our demand plan, you know, to understand what we're seeing. And I'd say we noticed also, what can we get from a third-party company with market insights? How do we utilize that to see what's happening in the near and far future so we have the right product mix for everybody? So that was learning early stages. I think for everybody, it's going to be still a challenge with PPE in the short term. We are getting better. So that's not just demand planning, that's just internal. We just can't keep up with the demand.
So you talked about short-term goals for 3M. What about long-term goals? Has 3M prompted any new ideas?
Internally, I think we're always looking at how we can invest in the future of this industry. I think short term and long term, as I talked about the microscope and the telescope, I think it's more about value add solutions. How do we invest in integrated programs that speak to each other? You know, and how do we look at things to help out the customer base out there? We are investing in the future. We make sure we're connected, and we are getting better at connecting with the AOEMs. So looking at the complexity of repairs. You know, how do we get out there to understand how to repair the new vehicles that are coming down the pipeline with adhesives, with the new materials they're using? We're doing a good job of connecting with OEMs, not only in North America, but on a global basis. So that's been a goal of ours for the last 3 to 4 years, so we can bring these solutions to our customers.
All right, we have another one here. Is 3M doing anything to tackle Canada's skilled labor shortage?
We are. I've challenged the team. If you look at the grassroots of this, we've always been invested in the Canada Skills competition. That's big and obviously one part of us and very important to us. We do it on a provincial level as well. All of our team, and again, our sales team, that's the benefit of having them across the country. They spend time with students. And I think the important part for us is, where do we get to these students? I think a lot of us, we get them at college level, it might be too late. How do we get to them sooner? And I challenged our team on that, is looking at CCIF, looking at these different things pre-COVID. How do we get some of these newer generation to these forums, showcasing the innovation in this industry and then the health of this industry? That's so important before they base their decision to move on to a college level career. So I challenge a team across the country to get in touch base with their schools, working with all sorts of different levels and educating them.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any advice for facilities looking to attract apprentices at this time?
I would say touch base with the local 3M sales rep. And the reason why, we are closely connected with them. They will help out and assist in different markets. It is different in different markets. Not sure where the question's coming from, that's okay. But the touch base, because it is different in BC than it is in Quebec. Our team knows who the people are, who to touch base with, who's looking for a job, because we do have a vast team across the country. So that's probably my best advice on that. Touch base and connect with your 3M sales rep.
That looks like all we have so far. Oh, here we go. We have one more. Has 3M Canada been involved in 3M USA COVID's efforts?
I'm not sure where they're going with that question. I'd say we're closely aligned as a company with our US colleagues. Yeah. You know, we have weekly calls in this division. I'll talk about this division. We have great alignment with our US counterparts. So in the COVID efforts for this industry, 100%. You know, we have weekly meetings on Monday mornings where we're all on a call as a leadership team, making sure we understand what's happening. I'd say the North American corridor between Canada and the US has never been tighter. You know, and I applaud our company on that to make sure, because our channel, our customers are not just based in Canada anymore. They actually are spreading, and consolidation is making us bigger. So we are one and united as one. So we need to understand that. What are they bringing in US? Cars are pretty much the similar in the US as they are in Canada. We all know that. So we need to understand how we can utilize both teams. No.
All right, nope, here's another one. We have time for probably 2 or 3 more. I heard you mention something about consolidation post-pandemic. Can you speak more on consolidation of the aftermarket in Canada?
Yeah, I think we saw consolidation happening 5 to 6 years ago, and probably even before that. I think the industry's been gone down the path of consolidation. I think in the short term, we might see a little bit of a halt on that, but it's going to be, I still see it existing. You know, I see the insurance partners pushing that way. We have great networks in Canada and in the US. I do see it happening at a customer level and probably a channel level. You know, I do see people coming in, so I don't believe it's going to stop on that. I think it's going to keep on moving forward. It might be in the short term, as I stated, it might be just a little bit of halt, but I still see consolidation happen in the industry.
Every time I say that's the last one, another one pops up, but we'll give it another second. All right, I'm not seeing any more. Oh, no, right when I said that. Nope, yeah, we're good. All right, well, thank you so much, Craig, for talking to me today and joining Collision Repair's webinar on 3M's post-pandemic plan. I really appreciated talking to you. I learned a lot.
Well, I really appreciate the time today. You know, like I said, that it's just a close-knit industry. When we can utilize the digital platforms like we're doing here today, I think this is so important that we are sharing this, communicating this to the industry, touching base, make them understand what we're trying to do as a company, what our strategies are, what our long-term plans are. Again, transparency and visibility is so important. You know, and again, I commend our team for making sure as they work through this, they're touching base with customers, making sure they touch base with channel partners. I want to say to the industry, communication is so important, you know, through this. Let's make sure we keep it, this is a great platform for this, and let's make sure we keep it moving forward on that.
I love that message. Well, thank you to everyone who watched today's webinar. We really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon at Collision Repair's next webinar.
Thanks for watching. This was a Media Matters production. If you liked what you saw, subscribe for more, or check out our other videos.